the speed of the world. Take over, you are Jehovah. Take over, you are Jehovah. Hear the cry of the shofar. There is a sound of the shofar. Hear the cry of the shofar. Take over, you are Jehovah. Africa, Nigeria, say Kenya. South Africa, Nigeria, say Kenya. Africa, Nigeria, say Kenya. Africa, Nigeria, say Kenya.
Good morning. This is the hour of restoration coming to you live again this morning. The storm is over, the sun is shining. Good to see you again, wheresoever you're listening at. This is your brother Randy from the Hour of Restoration coming to you live with a new show. Follow us on all our platforms. Watch us on Facebook, YouTube. You can watch back shows on SoundCloud. We have Instagram shows. We have a whole lot for you today. So it's good to see you guys again. Tell a friend to tell a friend. This is the Hour of Restoration.
Nigeria, say Kenya. South Africa, Nigeria, say Kenya. South Africa, Nigeria, say Kenya. South Africa, Nigeria, say Kenya.
So again, we're back with you with still the theme of the calling of the prophets. The first one that we discussed was Enoch, and last week we discussed Moses. And this show will discuss the prophet Jeremiah. So if there's something that you want to know about Jeremiah, I hope we will get some nuggets today again from the preacher man. But first, in the first segment of the show, we'll discuss a table talk talking about what we discussed last week. That was Moses. See what the show was about, what the panel members have remembered, what they can share, what they know about Moses. And yeah, let's see where we're headed. So we'll be right back. Stay safe. Stay seated, get pen and paper. So if you feel like you want to join the conversation, feel free to drop a comment and share your mind with us. So this is your brother Randy from the Hour of Restoration. We're back to you live from Amsterdam. It's 10 past 10, meaning that we'll be starting with the first segment, the table talk. Going to talk about the last week's show, Still in the theme, the calling of the prophets. And last week we discussed Moses. So let's see where we're headed. So I have two guests here with me. On my left, Brother Shalom, and on my right, Brother Harike. So now that the storm is over, how are you guys doing? You survived? You were outside cycling, or you were safely inside? Shalom.
We survived.
You survived. Okay. And Harike?
Yep, survived. No damage to me or
No damage.
my house. So
Okay.
thank you.
It's good to see you guys, man. I haven't seen you guys in a while, so it's good to see my brothers again. So good to hear that you guys are doing well.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing fine, man. I'm happily doing fine.
You are happily doing fine.
It's a new
You are
dimension of
happily
doing
doing
Dimension.
fine. Wow.
Oh yeah.
No.
You're happily doing fine.
No, I'm good, man. I'm grateful for being here. It's a new day. Each and every day is a day to be thankful for. So let's jump right into it. We're discussing the theme, the calling of the prophets, and last week was Moses. So let's break the ice first. So as you guys know me, how I break the ice with a little mini segment. This time I will flip it up.
Flip it.
We're going to play true or false, but you have to be quick also. It's the same context. You have to be in 5 seconds, but true or false. I'm starting with you, Shalom. Moses fled out of Egypt because of his calling. True or false? 1, 2, 3, 4. I know it's tricky. 5.
Yeah. I'd say true.
Huh? True.
Yeah.
So he fled out of Egypt because of his calling.
No, because he smashed somebody.
But you said true. So you're wrong.
Yeah, I would say that's why I said it's tricky.
I know why it's tricky,
It's
because
tricky,
that's why I write it like this,
Yeah,
because it belongs with his calling, but
Yeah,
that wasn't
not
the
the
reason
reason. Yeah,
why
exactly.
he fled out of Egypt, because he smashed an Egyptian and then they wanted to kill him, so he fled out of Egypt. So but I understand why you think it's part of his calling, because the way his life was going, he
Yeah.
needed to flee out of Egypt. So Harike, you get also one.
Mhm.
True or false? Moses studied Egyptology, and that's why he wasn't allowed in the promised land. True or false?
False.
False. It was easy for you, eh?
But of course, hoe bedoel je? Het is gewoon vals.
Why is it false? He studied Egyptology, right?
But that was not the reason why he did not enter the promised land.
You are sharp. Okay. That was a little icebreaker. So people at home, Moses didn't went in the promised land because he studied Egyptology. But he did study it, but that wasn't the reason.
Egyptology. And don't think that if you go to Google, you type
You see
Egyptology,
the studies of Moses.
that is the study of Moses.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Ah.
Waar hij hieroglyphen leest.
Moses studied other things. Okay. So yeah, that was the little icebreaker. So about Moses, it's good to remember these things, because many people don't really think about these things. They just, Moses, he led the people out of Egypt, that's it. But there's a whole lot of more depth about Moses, and that's what we discussed last week. So let's see what you guys remembered. So we have discussed the calling of the prophets, and what does Moses specifically mean to you, Shalom?
I said it in a few weeks ago. Also, here in the table talk that Moses was someone whom, I admire.
Mm-hmm.
Especially how his progress. It basically, from all the biblical characters,
Mhm.
Moses was one of the first that I truly could. I really loved his story. I would say
Mhm.
that. So that is what Moses was.
Okay. And Hadike, what does Moses mean to you personally?
To me personally, I've never really looked at him on on that level. Like, what does he mean to me personally?
Mm-hmm.
More so, he is a man whom we can learn a lot from. He was the first, what some call national prophet of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a man who needs to be studied, and you can learn a lot from what Shalom said, his progress, where he started, and how he became the man he became. So
Yeah. He went through a whole journey,
mhm.
and that's the follow-up on my next question, because the preacher man had a whole teaching about Moses, and he told us many things. What was for you the core of the message that you have gotten out of it, and how do you plan on reflecting that core of that message into your own life? Harike.
I think one of the most important subjects of the message was, I believe, patience, and and I think the minister called it going through the process, because when you look at the story of Moses, you see that from a very young age, even before his birth, he was, let's say, predestined to be a great man. But the fact that he received the prophecy, or for some that might be a dream in this time, it didn't mean that his road to that greatness was easy, and it didn't mean that it would come whenever he wanted it to come, right? So he was destined to do something great, but that greatness came when he was 80 years plus, right? And before that, he went through terrible situations, even though there was a lot of goodness and greatness spoken over his life. So you have to be patient and trust Yah and the process.
And what have you gotten out of that for yourself? Like, is it something that out of the story, how do you take? It's like, okay, this I can apply in my life and it will improve me.
What I would say to that is, the fact that you maybe received a word, or the fact that you have a vision of where you will be in years to come, doesn't mean that you can become reckless, right? Because Moses had a vision, he had a dream, he had a prophecy, but as we said in your icebreaker, because he killed a man, right, with too much zeal, he had to go and face the consequences of what he did. What would happen if he did not kill the man? Would he still have to end up in jail? I'm sure that he would go through the process another way, right? But maybe not in that severity, right? So don't be reckless. The fact that you have something doesn't mean that you can just do anything anyhow. You still have to remain wise and patient, I would say.
Okay, thank you. And Shalom, what is the first thing that comes to mind when you think about the prophet Moses? Humility. Why?
It also said what the preacherman last week said was he was someone who did not want to be on the forefront because it is all about him. He was really a person who wanted to serve others, someone who, though people did him wrong, he was still pleading to Elohim on their behalf. And I think that's something which come up in my mind. Really humility. He really wanted to serve and be there for others, and he did not want to save Israel because he wants to show the world that I am the one who was used by Elohim. But he wanted to save Israel because he really cared for the people, and he really wanted to do something good for Elohim, and not because he wanted to be
the big man, the master prophet,
as people would say this day.
Because he went through a whole lot of things before he got to that position of things. And what you say, humility is really something that you need in that process, right?
I think he was also, as Annika said, he started off, though the people would say the Egyptologist and so, and he was not all of a sudden he was the one who was humble and all these things. He had a process to be humble. What the preacher man last week also said, that he went even to the wilderness, 40 years and another 40 years. So I think it's a process to break down all his pride, his anger, all these things. So it's always a process. So it's the end result is him to be humble. He was humble at the end, but there was a process to become.
Exactly, because that was my follow-up question. Like, why do you think Moses went through all these challenges before being used by Elohim? And you stated it like he had to break down certain things, like for example the anger issues, what did he had, and by smiting the Egyptian. Certain things have to be filtered out of you before you can be used by Elohim. So that was my question. But what is the biggest difference between prophet nowadays, because we see prophets, we see them in church. What is the biggest difference between prophets nowadays and a prophet like Moses? What is the difference between those two that you see right now in our generation? Because there are many prophets out there.
Too much. And Moses became humble in the end. And he went through many things, I would say. And he also had years of preparation. And nowadays, it's like, I think Brother Chris, what he always said, and it always remember me, we are in the microwave generation.
Microwave, everything fast food.
Ting ting. So it's like
You what?
Yeah,
You
what?
what? What?
What's that? I said.
He's a
No.
ting ting.
Ting ting.
But go
What is
ahead.
the microwave sound?
Oh, that's
Wow, okay.
Wat dacht je eigenlijk?
People, let me
I have no
translate
idea.
that.
What is ting ting?
He did a microwave sound for the people that
Oh,
don't
like
understand.
when something is done in the microwave, you hear that sound, that the ting sound.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay,
Ah,
cool.
What
yeah.
sound
cool.
does your microwave make actually?
Also something like that, but I didn't make the
You didn't
connection.
make that
That's why I
link.
was like, huh? Okay, yeah, cool.
Yes.
So and years of preparation, years of getting, I would say, that Babylon out of you. You all have this really come before Elohim, making ready that Elohim will use you, not because you are, as Enrique said, you received something. It means that the next day or the next hour or the next week, year, you are the one whom you want to be, and all of a sudden facing
Yeah.
the challenges.
Yeah. And
kind of
Harike,
feel.
what is the biggest difference then that you see with prophets nowadays in the church? Like, what are they doing different or lacking in?
I would say what they are doing different, rather what they are saying different. I would say the biggest difference is the message, right? When you look at what did Moses actually preach or what did he actually say, and then you see it's not for nothing that the whole, like the first 5 books in the Bible, we call them the law of Moses, right? That's what he brought. He was the first one who showed us how the Most High wanted his people to behave and to govern themselves. And the prophets of today, they speak really, I'm not saying contrary, but nothing in their message resembles the message of Moses, right? So there is absolutely no relationship between their message and the message of Moses, and by that you know that the spirit which was upon Moses is not the spirit which is upon the prophets of today, because they don't speak the same thing.
Yeah. So if we would ask you then, how can we recognize a Moses-like figure in our time? What would you say?
Oh wow, a Moses-like. I'm not sure whether there will be any Moses-like
Moses-like.
figure,
Moses-like.
but
because there comes a second Exodus, right? So we need a Moses.
wow, yeah, you are deeper than me, so
man.
you know the
What's
second
that?
Exodus.
We need a second Moses.
Hey, if
No.
you find this Moses like Brandy, call me.
Yeah, man. But hey, if you want to, I would say to recognize a follower of Moses, right?
Yeah, let's say.
You'll recognize him, I believe, by first of all, what does the person preach, right? So because if you are a follower of someone, it means that your preaching and your message will be similar, and your character, and your character will also be similar. So when you see that a person preaches what Moses also was preaching, then you know that he is like Moses, or he follows Moses. That's why sometimes when you read also the New Testament, even the Messiah was making references to Moses, right? Because he was also a follower of the teaching of Moses. So I would say that.
Yeah. Okay. And Shalom, why do you think Moses made the mistake that he made, that he could not enter into the promised land? Because we all know that he made a mistake and he didn't enter the promised land, right? But why do you
Sana mistake. What is the
what is
mistake?
the mistake? You're asking me.
Of course, you're talking about a mistake. What is
Yeah.
the mistake?
So the mistake that we heard about that is he he should have spoke to the rock and he smashed it
Mm.
because he thought that's how it worked, right? Because he had experience with it. So he thought like, okay, now Elohim told me something, but I know how this works. I'll smack it and then whatever come. But he did something else that what Elohim told him. But why do you think Moses made that mistake?
I was not in his mind, because I think he has seen many things. He know that if I do this, Elohim will listen. Splitting up the Red Sea, you know, all these things. He already knows how it works. So I would say then, at that moment, too much stress.
Too much stress.
Yeah.
Blame it on the people.
No, as in, he lost. I think what Brother Anki said is when you at a certain point you can slip, and at that moment he did not have control over his over himself, because he allowed all these the environment to make a decision for him. Meanwhile, he had Elohim who already said how it ought to work.
Yeah.
So, indeed, of course, it's always your environment which can make you make a decision, but it's also you yourself. When you reflect, it is the way you react to the environment that is really key.
Yeah.
So
That's a good one.
so it is his reaction, and
Yeah.
he must maybe be overwhelmed by his reaction.
And we know Moses as someone he takes advice from people, right? Like for example, from his father-in-law Jethro about managing the people. So knowing that he's someone that would take advice, if you were in a position to advise Moses how to
Bro, don't even advise myself.
Wow.
if you were in a position
Wow.
to advise Moses
Advise Moses.
I would
Wow.
say do whatever you do, whatever you do. Respect Shabbat.
no, if you would could be in a position to advise Moses so he can prevent from making the mistake, what advice would you give him?
Moses himself. Let me
Yeah.
say. Let me put it this way. Let me rephrase the question a bit.
no.
If a person is in a situation,
Yeah.
that wherein the environment is too much or overwhelming, and then the person can make can give a reaction to it, or had to give a reaction to that to the happiness of the environment.
Yeah.
I would say
Yeah.
I would say it's life.
It's life.
Sometimes, because you have to be honest. You cannot always make the right decisions. You cannot always give the right reaction. You cannot always. So when you realize that you made when you realize that you did something wrong, I think at that moment then you have to reflect.
Yeah.
Because that was also someone who Moses was. He was a person who then looked back and he assessed his actions. It's like, no, man, what I did, it wasn't good. Actually, I didn't have to do that. So some lessons are there also for you. If you learn from it, fine. But if you don't learn from it and you repeat the same mistakes, then you're
But
basically a fool.
what I found difficult to understand in that answer is because Moses made that mistake and it cost him the promised land. It sounds like when you say like there will be another chance for you to learn from it. How do you deal with it if it's your one and only shot? Harike, do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I to go back to the question, I don't know if I would really be able to advise him. Maybe right, because
there's one person like in a situation
like him or he was in the situation, so you can maybe say him. So when you look also to the build up of that situation, you see that there were a lot of factors which made Moses to become really angry, right? The people I think they tried to stone him. They were killing him, they were hungry, they were crying, almost a rebellion, right? So he was really angry, and before that he was the one who pleaded and interceded for them that the Most High would not kill them, actually. So there was a lot happening in that situation, and maybe this is only theory, but what I would try to do maybe is help him maybe get the workload off of him in a way that maybe if you have a pastor, right, he might be dealing with a people which might really annoy him, and if you are there, by you maybe assisting the pastor in doing certain things for him, instead of he always going to the people and him doing the errands, for example, by you maybe lightening the burden, you can give him some room to, right, clear his mind. So
I understand.
maybe I would
already in that position.
who Moses.
Yeah, the 70 elders. So that's Moses. Are you talking about Moses in particular, or someone like Moses?
I'll just stick to Moses, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise it become too abstract.
Because he has that then already. What you're referring to. He has elders.
But that's why in the Bible, in that situation, you don't read about the 70 elders being anywhere in that story. That's what I'm talking about, the build up.
Okay.
You don't read about them actively assisting him in that situation, because when you read the build up, you see that the people tried to stone him and they were complaining. Chances are that those 70 elders were part of the people, for example, right? That could be the situation, right? So that's how I think I would address that.
Do you agree with that, Shalom?
Yeah. For the last part, for sure. But as I said in the beginning, he already got his advices from his father, and then he was like, delegate some of the work, because your heart it's too much for your heart.
Die young.
Too much.
And
for
so
your heart.
that's a way wherein you can see. I would say seek for help, seek for advice. As I said, do not put too much on yourself.
Yeah.
Hey.
It's life, man. So it's not easy. If you're in a Moses type position, what if you have to lead all these black people?
What's a Moses type position?
Huh?
What is a Moses type position?
Leading black people. Any situation where you have to lead black people is a Moses. It can cost you your life.
Black people.
No, we love you people, man, but it's not easy with you guys. So let's continue. Moses was a learned man, right? He was learned in many things. Many people often say like Moses, he was a stammerer, he wasn't learned, blah blah blah. But we can read in the scriptures that Moses was a learned man in the ways of Egypt. So there are many things that he also studied before entering into the relationship with Elohim and serving him. So why is it too important, Harike? This question is for you. Why is it important to also mimic this aspect of Moses' life, being studied in other things besides the things of Elohim?
I think because studying broadens your understanding, right? So when you are a learned man or a studied man, you'll be able to address a certain topic from different angles. And if you can do that, it will be much easier for you to explain something to someone else, because when you are dealing with different types of people, everyone comes from a different angle or from a different background, right? So if you can only address a topic from one specific angle, the chances are that you will not be able to cause different people from different backgrounds to understand. But if you are learned in different topics, if someone doesn't understand the first approach, you can take it from a second approach, and if someone doesn't understand the second approach, you can take it from a third or fourth approach. So the fact that Moses was learned in other ways of the Egyptians, it meant that he could use the Egyptian cultural references in order, for example, to explain something from someone who came out of Egypt, right? So I think that is
also 400 years in Egypt.
Yeah, exactly. So they had a lot of Egyptian ways and customs, and if you are learned in those ways, you can use their culture and their background to make them understand new information.
And Shalom, is this how you started your walk as a believer? Like you immediately started to study also other things beside the Bible? Because many people may think, I'm starting to believe now, and I immediately have to jump to study other things. Is that how you started, or did you first started?
Other things you mean beside the Bible?
Yeah, like for example,
like
other books, history books, and those kinds of things.
Okay. I was about to give another answer, because now we are living in a generation. You can go to school, study your work, and there are some people who are having plans to do some masters.
PhD,
and so study indeed, because then you would also know, because when you look at how Egypt Moses in Egypt, by all means, you learn about the stars, nature, life, physics, mathematics. If you say all these things come from Egypt, then, and he was
learned. A prince.
Learn.
he was next to the king himself, man. So by
Yeah.
all means, he also got this knowledge. But in our age, in our time, hey, the government they even subsidize your schooling, man.
Mhm,
So I think with that, there's already je bent één stap vooruit, zeg maar, to study other things. And besides that, of course, when you even look narrow to the faith, if you have the Bible and all these things, I would say that apply how you study things at your school also in your faith, the word, the Bible. And you might see some references in the Bible. You see, hey, where is it taken from? It might lead you to other books. It might lead you to other parts. You might see something about even Genesis 1. It talks about basically biology. You want to understand how does it come, what does happen. They will read certain books about how does biology works, and all these things, because there's a lot of I would say laws of natures also in the Bible.
Yeah.
And if you take a phrase out of it, it might lead you to other subjects in other areas of biology, mathematics, and all these things.
But the Bible is a good place to start, though.
Yeah.
Because if you mix it up too much in the beginning,
Yeah.
it will be a bit difficult.
You have to have a foundation first.
So start with your Bible first, right? At least je hele Bible, read the whole Bible, try to read it, try to study it, and then in the process of studying, usually you will find, as Shalom said, you find a certain passage and you'll be like, okay, what does this passage say? And then you'll be led to other sources, but start with the Bible first.
Yeah. So it's wise to, as a new believer, start first with the Bible as the foundation, and then through the process, if you have a good leader, he will guide you in that process. He will provide you also with things that you can look into and give you nuggets that you can research out for yourself. So that's a good way to start. Then another question is, because many people get misunderstandings about Moses, but what do you think is the number one thing the churches are understanding wrong about Moses? Because many rumors are going out there that Moses, the preacher man also mentioned it, like they say Moses, he was slow of speech, and then they link that to he wasn't learned. Is that something that you recognize in churches nowadays when they talk about Moses, or you don't see that?
Yeah, there are. I believe there are many misconceptions about Moses, and I think the biggest one is not necessarily about the slow of speech thing, but about the law which he brought. I think that one is the biggest one, because if you remove Moses, you almost don't even have a Bible.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If you remove what Moses brought, you see that the Bible doesn't have a foundation anymore, right? So I think the biggest misconception is also that law particularly is done away with. And as I said in the intro, you'll see that in the whole New Testament, every time it's talking about prophets or scripture or text, maybe 8 out of the 10 times is always referring back to Moses or what he has done or what he has said. So I believe that is the biggest misconceptions in the church nowadays.
And something that also fascinates me when the preacher man mentioned in the last show, like when Moses was leading the people out of Egypt, because nowadays in the church we also hear a lot of prayers like people are praying against the devil or binding the devil, binding the enemy. But in the story of Moses, nowhere you see him binding Pharaoh, right? It was always he was just doing his thing, just let my people go. But nowhere you see Moses praying, I bind the Pharaoh and those kinds of things. So that's something that really stuck to me. But that was Moses. But last question about the Moses, then we'll have a small chat about this week's topic. Why should we? No. Let me phrase it on our way. What advice would you give someone out there to get a better understanding of the prophet Moses and his role in this all?
Moses, I think, we've already discussed, also even in the intro, not because you have a dream or you received a prophecy, or you have a desire, a goal, a passion for something, it means that all of a sudden, in a twinkle of an eye,
Yeah.
things will come into existence.
Mm-hmm.
Elohim is someone. He's a principled Elohim, and he wants to gain your trust also, because to be honest, he can use you, but with all due respect, he can also use another person or even a stone.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why Moses was also really humble, because he realized that even I can be replaced.
Mm-hmm.
Even I can be replaced. It's not because I know much or I can do much. That's why Elohim is using me. No, it's because it is His will.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when you are really vigilant and you come to the understanding that, hey, this process is not I am the chosen one because I am the chosen one. No, it's because Elohim needs somebody to fulfill all this work.
Yeah.
And for that process,
Mm-hmm.
right, you can start off. There are so many things, 20 years, 30 years, we have already many things within us. So it has to break down. So many things you are going through is not always because someone is against you, is stopping your destiny. Maybe the Most High is preparing you to be a better person. So these challenges, I would rather see it as an opportunity to come closer unto Elohim and to die.
And I also believe that when it comes to the last thing that Shalom said, that the challenges that we go through sometimes is not because someone is doing you. And sometimes also what I notice is a lot of people try to look at their challenges as, oh, Elohim is trying to teach me something. And sometimes it's also not Elohim. You just made a foolish decision.
Yeah.
And you have to face the consequences, right?
Yeah.
So not because nowadays you are going through maybe a certain disease. It's possible that that's just from Elohim, or you are going through disease, or you have a certain bad relationship with your parents or your friends. It doesn't mean Elohim is trying to teach you how to deal with people. No, you are just a person with a bad character, for example. Yeah, you did it, right? So don't always try to put things on Elohim or on a witch. It's just a facade to put away responsibility from yourself, right? So
yeah. Okay, and we discussed a whole lot about Moses and all kinds of things. There was a whole lot of said, but why should someone that may listen to this show or this message take serious what we are saying or what we have mentioned? Arike.
you don't have to. It's your
You don't
life,
have to.
right? So,
But-
but what we are trying to do simply is
Yes.
we are trying to look at what can we learn from the people in the book, right? And how can we apply what they did to enhance the probability of us getting into heaven, how many people see it. So if you would like to make it, and if you really want to be with your Savior, right, when he comes, I would advise you to first of all look at the Bible yourself, and if you are interested in seeing the opinions and the perspectives of other people, try to consider what we are saying.
Okay.
And maybe this is also the basis. Maybe we took some characters, but maybe there's also one character which you can relate to. Don't just look at the story, but also look maybe how the ministers also studied one of these characters, that you can also apply it in your own studies for the person you would like to study and also learn from. I would say choose the good characters. Don't choose,
Okay, and then let's
Judas Iscariot. Don't choose Judas.
Judas.
You
Okay.
like the name Judas.
Judas. Yeah. Okay, then let's finish it off with a small mini segment again.
I have time to
Time
for
to
segments.
Name in 5 seconds.
Oh my goodness.
Shalom. Where did Moses fled to when he went out of Egypt?
To the wilderness.
Yeah.
Hey, bro.
Which wilderness?
That's correct. That's correct.
People, do you agree with this answer?
Mhm.
Drop it in the comment section. But this is wrong. He fled to Ethiopia, right? To Midian.
Yeah.
To Midian. Shalom. Midian. People, Midian. So thank you. That was the topic about what do you say? That was Moses that we
Mhm.
discussed last week. So if you missed it, something that you heard that we discussed, you can rewatch it on YouTube, Facebook, can also on SoundCloud, I believe, Hour of Restoration. You can watch back the whole show and get the teaching for yourself. And this was Moses. So this show will be discussing the prophet Jeremiah.
Mhm.
So Jeremiah, what do you think of Jeremiah? Let's see. What is the added value to spend the whole show talking about one prophet? Adike.
Wow. The added value. It will give you a better understanding of the Bible in itself, right? Because what the prophets did is they actually, or what many of them did is they told the people what Elohim thought of them
Mm-hmm.
and how Elohim would treat the people,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when you take your time and you study, for example, the prophet Jeremiah, you'll see how Elohim responds to certain behavior
Mm-hmm.
and how Elohim will deal with the people
Mm-hmm.
in the end time, right? So
Mhm.
you have a better understanding of how, first of all, Elohim's character is, and you have a better understanding of the relationship between Israel and the Most High.
Yeah. Clear. And the last question for you, Shalom. What does the prophet Jeremiah mean to you personally?
I've not really looked into Jeremiah. Of course, I know some stories about him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I also read his book, but it's not that I really research and look at his life. So I'm really curious
Okay, so
what the preacher man of today would say.
he will have something for you to eat then, a whole bowl of Jeremiah soup for you to. Okay, I would like to thank you guys. Thank you guys for your contribution, for what you have to share. I hope the people got something out of it. So again, thank you guys. So people at home, we'll be back with you. We'll play a little song for you, and as the preacher man gets ready, we'll be talking about the prophet Jeremiah. The theme is the calling of the prophet, and we'll spend the whole segment about Jeremiah. So get your pen and paper ready. Tell a friend. This is the hour of restoration. So we'll be back with you in a bit. Stay, don't go. You may get something to drink, but come back, please. This is the prophet Jeremiah that we're going to discuss. So we are here. It's the hour of restoration, and see you guys in a bit.
Yes, shalom, shalom, and to all our listeners and viewers, those that are catching us live, and those who will revisit the message at a later time. We thank the Almighty for yet another day that He has granted unto us. We thank the Master of the Heavens for yet another opportunity that He has shown unto us. The Bible says that, lo and behold, it is Elohim who has made all things, and we do not exist out of our own will, but the Maker who made all things has willed it so that at this dispensation of time, a specific number of people would be alive, and by His mercy we are accounted amongst those that are living in this day and in this generation. And Elohim being so wise and being so good, for every generation and for every age and people, you will always reserve a voice, and it will be through that voice that He will make Himself manifest. And the crazy thing about the manifestation of Elohim is that it will always have humble beginnings, likened unto a seed that is planted in the ground. At first, the seed, it is very small. And when you take that seed, it is insignificant in the beginning stages. And being insignificant as it is, then they take the seed and they throw it into the ground. So it goes from a state of insignificance to a state of hopelessness, because it falls into the ground covers it, and then it dies for a season. Not knowing that after it dies, it is through that process of dying that, lo and behold, a little plant comes out. And as the plant comes out, due to the process of the sun and the rain, the seasons and times, eventually that plant grows into a tree. Eventually that tree grows into a humongous tree where all the beasts of the field, the birds of the air and the cattle, they come, and there they take their nourishment. It is the same as with this Elohim. We are serving one who we have not seen. We are serving one who has decided not to show Himself physically in the world yet. We are serving one who speaks to us through His word and then convinces us through dreams and through visions and through the meditations of the heart. And when we come and we speak of Him, it is as if we are speaking a foreign language. It is through this Elohim we live and we move and we have our being. So we bear record that there is but one Elohim, and that besides Him there is none. Though sometimes with our action we prove that He exists, and sometimes because of the cares of this world and the many distractions, our way of life denies His existence. Nevertheless, He remains forever alive, and that will never change. And one day, the Master of all spirits, as the Muslims like to call Him, the Lord of the day of judgment, He will one day appear before His throne, and He will be surrounded with a myriad of hosts and angels, and He will judge the whole world. And up until that day of judgment, He has given His voice unto the simple ones, that we may come and we may declare of His great coming. So to all our brothers and our sisters that are far and that are close, we greet you with the words of the ancient Hebrew tongue, Salama. We pray that the peace of Elohim may be with you, no matter the circumstances and no matter the challenges that you are going through. We pray that the peace of Elohim may be with you. We pray that the Almighty Himself may have compassion upon his people, and that in the midst of temptations and trials and difficulties, the promise that he made that he would keep a remnant that will remain faithful unto him, may he honor his words as he has honored it, and may he continue to strengthen his people. So today, dear listeners, we will continue with the exposition of the lives of the prophets. And this is a subject that will help us understand, because it is through comparison, by comparing and contrasting, that we will be able to carve a path for ourselves. Because the Bible says that we ought to seek and ask counsel from our elders. That is what Moshe said. We ought to seek and we ought to ask counsel of our elders. Because life in itself is nothing else but the chronicling of time. So do you want to understand the future? You ought to look to the past. Do you want to understand why? You ought to go to the source of all things. Nowadays, the most abused calling of the fivefold, as they classify it, is the calling of the prophet. There is no calling that causes as much trouble as that of a prophet. There is no calling that causes as much confusion as that of a prophet. And there is no calling that we black folks admire and love than that of the prophet. Nowadays, to be a pastor is not a title to be proud of. You are a pastor is like you're boring, man. Nowadays, to be a teacher, that is the most despised of all the callings. I'm a teacher. It's as if when you are a teacher, you have no sense, you have no power, you have no insight. All you have is theory. To be an evangelist, sometimes if you are a young boy, you have fast talks, something like that. And then some people prefer to be apostles, but the most loved of all the callings is that of the prophet. And that is also the most dangerous of all the callings. So you will continually see Elohim warning us concerning false prophets. So today we will look at one of the prophets. 2 weeks ago, our brother started with Enoch, and we saw how he was one of the major ones. And then our brother Jeff went on and he disclosed the life of Moshe. And then we had some interesting questions from what would you advise Moses? I was sitting in the car and I was like, wow, what would you advise Moses? There was no advice to be given. There was no advice to be given. There was no advice to be given to that man who was not a man amongst people. He was called a god. To the point where when he died, Michael himself and Samael were wrestling for his body. Because Michael knew that I have to take this body away. Because if I leave this body, Samael will possess this body and walk amongst the people, and they will worship him as a god. That was the level he reached. So sometimes we read certain things and you have to understand, man. You have to understand. When you read the testament of Moses himself, you will see that the man, he was known as the man of prayer and lament. So he will spend most of his days on his knees, calling unto the Almighty. And imagine, because the more you become in unison with the Almighty, you begin to take his heart. And so imagine him coming down and seeing the madness of the people. So he was angry for the sake of the Almighty. That is why even though the Almighty took him out, he did not blame him of anything. But it was all just based according to plan, because it was for a reason that it was Yahushua who had to lead the people into the promised land. It is timing. It is timing. It is timing. So why am I beginning with that? I'm beginning with that because some people think that a prophet, their life only exists of what they say. No, there are different ways in which someone can act prophetically. So the first thing you will see that prophets do is their way of being, sometimes their birth in itself is a prophecy, and it is telling you something. The way they live is telling you something, and then their message will also tell you something. That is why the life of a prophet, you will see that all it does is it reflects on certain parts of the Messiah. So you can consider a prophet like a part of the garment of the Almighty. Every aspect of a prophet in a particular way, it will always reflect a part of the Messiah. And it will always reflect a part of the plan of Elohim at a particular time and season. So the prophet we will focus with today is called Yeremiyahu. Yeremiyahu. And give me the definition of his name.
From the blue letter.
Whatever you want, it is fine. Just take the blue.
Okay, so Jeremiah, right? Meaning whom Yahuwah has appointed.
So it is not Jeremiah. His name was Yeremiyahu. Yeremiyahu. And it means
whom Yah has appointed.
He whom Elohim
has appointed.
Has chosen. He whom Elohim has chosen. He whom Elohim has chosen. Prophet like Massa, which means he who is drawn from the waters. Massa. He who is drawn from the waters. Daniel, meaning Elohim who is judge. So every name bears something. And this one, Yeremiyahu, means he whom Elohim has appointed. So, starting with the calling of this prophet. Because at first I was like, because I don't know how in this day and age people are so quick to call themselves prophets. Because if you are really reading the Bible, not from a spiritual sense, but simply from a physical human sense, and you are reading, who are the most miserable of people that you've ever met in your life in the Bible? Who are the most miserable?
Prophets.
No, prophets.
From a physical human point of view, who have suffered the most?
Yeah, prophets.
The prophets. The prophets. So to be called a prophet, you have to wonder. Emma, I think there's a title claim. Guys, I've been called by Elohim. He told me one day, I've been called to the nations. You have to sit down and be like, hey, varum, why? Because to be called a prophet of the Almighty is not easy. So when Elohim began to call Yirmiyahu, listen to his response. The one who was appointed, read.
Jeremiah chapter 1 from verse 6.
Mhm.
Then I said,
Mhm.
Ah, Yahuwah Elohim,
So,
behold,
so the Almighty came and he began to look inside of Israel, and he saw within a particular village amongst the people of Benjamin, he saw a Levitical family. And there he said, I have elected one. And Elohim began to speak unto him.
so before I formed thee in the belly,
And he said, hey, Yirmiyahu, before I allowed your mother and father to cohabitate and copulate,
and before thou camest forth
Mhm.
out of the womb, I sanctified thee,
I already sanctified you.
and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations.
And I appointed you, Yirmiyahu, and I appointed you a
prophet unto the nations.
prophet unto the.
Nations.
This is the title that many of them claim. Elohim has appointed me a prophet unto the nations, just like he appointed Yirmiyahu. But the funny thing about this one, a prophet to the nations, just how many nations did Yirmiyahu visit? Huh?
A question.
How many nations did Yirmiyahu visit? The answer is 2. And one was even by force. He did not want to go. He only went, or he was born in Israel, and he was brought to Egypt by force. The only 2 places he visited, and yet he was called a prophet to the nations. Maybe later on, when we will touch a segment on Babylon, we will try to explain that part. So when Elohim called him, what was his response?
Jeremiah 1:6. Then said I,
Then I, the appointed one, Yirmiyahu, I said,
Elohim, behold,
he said, Abba,
behold, I cannot speak,
please, I am not eloquent.
for I am a child.
Apart from my lack of eloquency, I am too young. I am too young. He said, I can't speak, and also I am too young.
But Yah said unto me,
And then the Almighty said,
Say not, I am a child.
don't say I am a child.
For thou shalt go to all that I shall send thee,
Mhm.
and whatsoever I command thee, thou shalt speak.
Mhm.
Be not afraid of their faces,
Mhm.
for I am with thee to deliver thee,
Mhm.
saith Yah.
Mhm.
Then Yahuwah put forth his hand and touched my mouth, and Yah said unto me, Behold, I have put my words in thy mouth.
So I have put my words into thine.
Mouth.
So this is the calling of this prophet. And this word that he has put into his mouth, you will see he has done it with every prophet that he called. So the first thing that he will do to you when he calls you, he will put his word into your mouth. And how do prophets experience that experience? Some call it the burden of Elohim. Habakkuk said, the burden of Elohim. The same Jeremiah, at a later verse, he said, the word of Elohim was so difficult for me that I decided to never speak of Elohim again. If it is possible, find that verse. And then he said, but every time I would remain quiet, he said, his words were like fire shut up in my bones, so that I could not keep quiet.
In the book of Jeremiah chapter 20,
Read.
starting from verse 9.
Mhm.
Then I said,
Then
I said,
I
will not make mention of him.
you see, he was like, no. I will not talk about Elohim, but this is the one who was called.
Nor speak any more in his name.
And when I'm around people, I will act as if I don't know the mysteries.
But his word was in my heart as a burning
Sometimes
fire.
you are sitting amongst your brethren, amongst family, amongst people, and you hear the statements and you're like, this is madness, ma. I'm not even going to talk, want. if I open my mouth, they will say I'm either crazy, I'm negative, I'm a lunatic, I'm bewitched, I'm the son of Satan, I am Antichrist incarnate. They will call me all manner of names. So then I decide to I will just whistle, act as if I haven't heard it. But then if you're not careful and you stay in that place, someone will make a statement and it will provoke you. And then the word that is inside of you, before you know it, you just explode. So he said,
He said, I will not make mention of him, nor speak any more in his name. But his word was in my heart as a burning fire, shut up in my bones.
That is what he's saying. That is what he's saying. That is what he's saying. Because every time he would go and he would prophesy, he would be beaten. He would be slapped. He would be thrown into prison. He would be ostracized of society. Because what you have to understand is, at first, being a prophet and a priest, he had free access to the temple where he was ministering. But a time came where he was exiled, excommunicated from society, and he became the lamenting prophet, the rejected prophet. The rejected prophet. So the calling of a prophet is a calling. If you are called into this office, normally the majority of the people ought to dislike you. The majority of the people ought to dislike you. You cannot be the people's favorite. You cannot be the people's favorite. And even those who will act as if they like you, they will only like you at the moment where Elohim has raised you up. And they will like you from the outside, but deep within, they despise you. So Jeremiah, being called at a very young age, at first he refused. He was like, Elohim, ik wil niet. So it took Elohim years to train this guy, to teach this guy. Just like Jeff explained and the brother before, and we have been saying, it is impossible for you to be sitting in a prison house, in a jail, and then for you to claim, I heard the voice of Elohim, and he told me, son, I have raised you as a prophet to the nations. Go and declare my word. And then within 2 years, you establish yourself as a prophet. It is 100% impossible just for a person, a normal human being with no calling, to be trusted, has a minimal time span of 7 years of walking upright. That's just a normal human being with no calling attached to your life. So let alone a prophet. When you declare to be a prophet, it means you have become the living vindication of the will of the Almighty. So certain things will have to be removed from you. Because if you fall, a nation falls. Because you claim to be the vindication of Elohim. That's why when you read the Bible very, very carefully, consider the scandals of our days and our times, especially of the ministers who have been officially crowned as ministers, and consider the lives of the heroes of old. When you read about Isaiah the prophet, from 1 to 5, he was prophesying, but there is still some sin in him. But from 5, when he sees the vision of the glorious one, his nature is changed. From 6 until the end of Isaiah, where do you see him doing madness and sinning? It is gone. Read the life of Jeremiah. Where will you spot his crime? It is not there. Read the life of Daniel. Read the life of all these people who were called to be prophets. You will see their life was impeccable. 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 Because they went through serious times of training. But we are in such a rush to be called prophets. And then when you call yourself prophet at such a young age, what is the word that Elohim gave you? What is the message? Nobody knows. What is your authentic message? Nobody knows. And so we are continuing. We saw his calling, his rejection, and then listen at what Jeremiah says concerning him and all those who will come in the line of prophets. Give me the book of Jeremiah. From it's Jeremiah chapter 28. Give me verse 1. Because Jeremiah came, and every message of every prophet usually will always be a warning. It will usually always be a warning. Because that is all that Elohim does. So you read Deuteronomy, is it 28? From 1 to 8 or something, or 1 to 13 or something. Yeah, 14. These are the so-called blessings. Actually, it's from 2 to 14. These are the actual blessings. But then from 15 until 68 are the warnings. That is how he speaks. So when you're living right and upright, you can live for months, no dream, nothing, no dreams, nothing, but you're living upright. But when you start doing wrong, in a succession of weeks, you can have 4, 5, 6, 7 dreams, all warnings. That is how he speaks. Elohim will never send a prophet, hey, I've sent my prophet just to tell you are blessed. A prophet in itself is an indication of coming judgment. So that is why in the basic of every prophet's theme and message will always be warning. So you read Jeremiah from 1 till, was it like
Jeremiah 28?
For 1 till Jeremiah 1 till 24, Elohim is speaking to his people, pleading with them, people, please come back, 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 stop sinning, please come back, stop sinning. Have you not seen what your sister Aholiba has done? Because at the time of the life of Jeremiah, the northern kingdom were already driven away by the Assyrians. So Jeremiah was living in a time where there was very much it was still spinning tension, because Judah was there and they were still going astray from the Almighty. So he began to pronounce judgment, and all of a sudden the people were calling him the doomsday prophet. Jeremiah the doomsday. If you have not received that title as of yet and you call yourself a prophet, you have to ask yourself what is wrong. There's this prophet in Kenya. I don't know his stance now, but I knew his stance once before. And he was speaking to the people, and then one lady asked him, hey prophet Munguli, prophet, is it true that you are called the doomsday prophet? And he looked at the woman and he told the lady, please, if you don't know what you're talking about, don't ask. Don't ask me such impudent questions. So if you have not received that title, hey, this man is altijd negatief, you have to ask yourself what is wrong with your message. So Jeremiah chapter 28. Begin from verse 1. Read in a pace.
And it came to pass the same year, in the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah king of Judah, in the 4th year, and in the 5th month, that Hananiah the son of Azur the prophet, which was of Gibeon, spake unto me in the house of Yah, in the presence of the priest and of all the people, saying, Thus speaketh Yahuwah Shabbaoth, the Elohim of Israel, saying, I have broken the yoke of the king of Babylon.
This is how they speak. Because a true prophet will come and he will warn you. And then another voice will come. So Hananiah, who's also the descendancy of prophets, began to speak in the temple of Yah, in the church. And he says, thus say it.
Elohim.
Go ahead.
I have broken the yoke of the king of Babylon.
I have, woman, thou art loose. Loosed. I have broken the yoke.
Of the king of Babylon.
I have broken the yoke.
Of the king of Babylon. Within 2 full years will I bring again into this place.
This is how this year is your year. This time is your season. Go ahead.
Within 2 full years will I bring again into this place all the vessels of Yah's house that Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, took away from this place and carried them to Babylon.
Good news. They're like, why should we be doomsday prophets? We are New Testament prophets. So we have to pronounce the good news, whilst not understanding what the good news is. So go ahead.
And I will bring again to this place Jeconiah, the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, with all the captives of Judah that went into Babylon, saith Yah. For I will break the yoke of the king of Babylon.
Loose. Go ahead.
Then the prophet Jeremiah said unto the prophet Hananiah.
And then Yirmiyahu was in their midst, and he stood up and he said
unto the prophet Hananiah,
to the prophet who prophesied this good news,
in the presence of the priest,
in the presence of the priests,
and in the presence of all the people that stood in the house of Yah,
he said,
even the prophet Jeremiah said, Amen.
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 Why not?
Yah do so.
Loose them. Bless them. Tell them all manner of things. He was like, bet your off, prophet. You have seen it. Go ahead.
Amen. Yah do so.
Let Yah do so.
Yahuwah perform thy words which thou hast prophesied.
Let him who gave you this mystery see that it comes to pass.
To bring again the vessels of Yah's house.
That he may return the vessels of Elohim's house.
And all that is carried away captive.
Go ahead.
From Babylon into this place.
Go ahead.
Nevertheless.
But. You see? But.
Nevertheless, hear thou now this word that I speak.
Now listen to this. What I have heard.
And in the ears of all the people. The prophets that have been before me.
He's saying the prophets that were before I, Yirmiyahu, came.
And before thee of old.
And the prophets that were before you came.
Prophesied both against many countries.
No, they blessed.
They prophesied against many countries.
Because that is the foremost position of one who's a prophet. You have come to warn. So he said the prophets that came before me and before you
of old,
they prophesied
against many countries,
and
against great kingdoms, of war, and of evil,
and of
pestilence,
The
prophet which prophesies of peace,
but the prophet that prophesies of peace. So he's saying, but the one who prophesies of peace,
when the word of the prophet shall come to pass,
when that word comes to pass,
then shall the prophet be known.
So listen, guys. Now begin to watch and study your own life. From the beginning that we stepped foot on the scene, all that we have been doing is warning. We warned you that this religion that you swear fealty to, called Christianity, is the religion of the beast. It is that religion of the Antichrist that he has given to the people, so that they may think that they are worshiping the light, but it is not the Bible that they are worshiping. We came and we warned you concerning Babylon the Great. We warned you concerning Rome, how this religion that you worship is nothing else but an extension of the papacy. And the papacy, which is the Catholic Church, is nothing else but an extension of the religion that the Bible calls mystery Babylon. The reason why it is called a mystery is because it will be a religion that many will adhere to, thinking that it is the right thing, but it is hidden to them that it is a lie. We have been warning you concerning the falsehood of the people who claim to be Hebrews. We have been warning you of all these things. But listen to the other voice, where they have been telling you concerning blessings. Let's just take this simple virus that is now rampaging the world, this coronavirus. This coronavirus. What did we tell you from the very beginning? We have been saying it, we will keep on saying it. The government will have their way with us. They will put on sanctions. Corona is here to stay. Corona is here to stay. We are not exempted. Some of us will go to the GGD. We will get shots. When it is my time to go, I will go. That will not diminish my Elohim, because he already told us that he has given power to the beast to overcome even the saints for a season. But remember the words of your prophets 2 years ago when Corona began to have a rampage. Your prophet said Corona will end. Your prophet says we cast Corona, we bind Corona, we loose Corona, we destroy Corona. All the which church here did not have an all night to bind Corona? Your prophet stood up in the midst. He took on a nice suit and he was prophesying to you. He told you Corona will not touch your family. All these things they said. But now ask yourself, because there is a 99% chance that the same prophet that told you Corona will not be here has already taken 2 boosters. So not just the vaccine for Corona, he took the vaccine and then he took the second shot, then he took the booster. He already made an appointment for the second booster.
He likes double portion.
That is your prophet. And yet you still believe in that joker. But we told you Corona is here to stay. Look at the lives of you who claim to go to these churches. What blessing has your prophet not promised you? How many times do you guys not go to church and you quote Isaiah and Moses? I will be the head and not the tail. I will be above and not beneath. No weapon formed against me shall prosper, and those who rise against me in judgment, Elohim will condemn. I will be the owner and the boss. All these statements you guys make, how many of you have an old company? How many of you have a cope house? How many of you are not dependent on the government for uitkering? You, your father, your mother, your brothers, your sister, your auntie, including your pastor, are in the same boat. How can someone who receives uitkering dare? No, like seriously, how can someone who receives uitkering dare and quote Moses and say you will be the head and not the tail? Are we speaking of a spiritual head and a spiritual tail? Because what are we talking about? What are we talking about? Because let's exclude the physical part, that no, it meant you will be spiritually the head. So it means you ought to come with mysteries. But ever since you went to your church, no new insight. So that spiritual that you will be based on their teachings is not spiritual then. So if it is not spiritual, it means it is physical. But how many of us have our own company? I don't have an own company. But I've never made that statement of Moses, say, I'll be the head and not. What do you mean? What do you mean? All of us are living in bondage. As long as you are living in Babylon, you are subject to Babylon. Oh, we claim the nation because you are going to you have conferences. You mean you claim the nation? If you claim the nation, it means you are the one who are able to influence laws. But when Rutte said everything must shut down, what power did you exercise? All of a sudden, all of you had to install Microsoft Teams. All of a sudden, all of you has your Bible online. So what nation have you conquered? You can conquer Netherlands. You can conquer Amsterdam.
Right.
No, and that's the thing. So there's no prophet in town. There is no prophet in this nation because it makes no sense. The types of statements that people are making, no man. We have made Elohim, we have made the calling of the prophet, we have made it cheap. Whilst we were here, we have been telling you, we will keep on telling you, as long as you are in Babylon, you will not be any head. You are the tail. You are the tail. If sickness comes in Europe, it will catch you also. If Europe goes broke, you will also be broke. No, we have to stop this type of madness. Every Sunday there is a new proclamation. Oh, guys, we are so blessed. We have please. If this is the type of blessing that we are measuring and we call it blessed, and statistically we blacks are still the poorest, then if we are blessed, then white people are gods. No, let's say how it is. If it is true that we are blessed and we are in need of this benevolent who's blessing us, and this is what they call blessing, then it means white people, they don't need to be blessed because they are gods.
They are blessing us.
And we all know these people are not gods. So therefore it means that you Negro are not blessed. We have to stop that madness. The issue that was prophesied by Moshe concerning our lives and the wickedness we have done up until now, we are still reaping of the fruits of the people that have committed these things against us. And also it is continuing because in our time, instead of living righteous to negate the curse, in our time we are extending the curse. So every 4 generation the curse is being extended. And religion is still waxing strong. So, Adike, because of time, Jeremiah 37 verse 19.
Jeremiah chapter 37 from verse 19.
So now the prophet Jeremiah is asking you,
where are now your prophets?
that is what we are asking. Where are they?
Which prophesied unto you,
That told you,
saying,
the
king of Babylon shall not come against you.
I'm telling you guys, you have to rebel. You have to really become angry and smash the table and revolt. Go to your church and be like, Pastor, no. You have told us we will be blessed, but why is Nkaso still chasing me? You have told us we'll be blessed. Why am I living in this broco also in the bims? What am I doing here? No, guy, have you seen your kitchen lately? Have you gone and visited your parents' house? Have you seen the bench that they are? Have you seen your Yeah, and that's the thing. But you can still go to church. You put on a wonderful pack, and you are walking. Oh, God zegen. God zegen, broeder, God zegen. In your own house, you yourself know your father and your mother have money issues. And because of the money issues, your house, there is tension. Your mother is not speaking to your father. Your father, his voice is silenced in the house because he knows, I say, ain't Fatumag and they so also, she will kill me. But you go to church, all these things that is happening to your life, the prophet does not see that. All he sees is, I see the hand of God upon you. You are favored. When will you ask him, Pastor, please, with all due respect, but when will that favor come? When will that favor come? So the prophet is asking, where are now
your prophets
which
prophesied unto you,
saying,
the king of Babylon shall not come against you,
nor
against this land.
But we have come and we have been telling you already, you are in Babylon, the king of Babylon is against us, and the king of Babylon for now is winning. The sooner you accept that, the more you will live your life very carefully. You are in Babylon. You are down. You are down. You are down. Look at what these people did to R. Kelly, for example. How now he's in prison, they took away his music, they took away everything because he was sleeping with underage girls. So they say. Prince Philip of UK was also being accused of sleeping with underage women. There was this article 2 days ago, and they said Prince Philip has settled the matter behind closed doors. They said he has paid the woman, and the woman has now decided to no longer press charges, and that they said the amount paid is indisclosable, meaning you don't need to know. Do you know why? Because Job said this world is given into the hands of the wicked, and he covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, who and where is he? But your pastor's making that statement. No, we are in Babylon. We are suffering here. We are under the control of Edom. So all those that are telling you all these lies, please, mother, brother, be calm. Khedej says, please, because of the law, go take your vaccination. Go and take it. Don't think that it is the vaccination that, no, you are under the control of Edom. Do not be stupid because your pastor told you to be strong in the faith. And now you, a family man, has decided to resist the vaccination, and now you have lost your job. Now you have lost your job, you go home, you and your wife are in fighting and are in trouble. You cannot pay the bills anymore. Your relationship is in shambles. Why? Because your pastor said the vaccine is the mark of the beast. It is the teaching of that pastor, which is the mark of the beast. If you have to take the vaccination, I'm not saying I'm for it, but I'm also not saying be stupid. If you have a job to maintain and they ask you to take it, go take the vaccination. Pray that Elohim will protect you. Go to your job, get the money, pay your bills, and live a life of quietude. Don't let these people fool you. Yeah? So, Jeremiah 23, verse 14.
Jeremiah chapter 23 from verse 14.
He says,
I have seen also in the prophets of Jerusalem.
I have seen in the prophets of this nation
a horrible thing.
something which is horrible.
They commit adultery.
They commit adultery, meaning they cause you to go after other gods.
And walk in lies.
And they walk in lies. Oh, I've seen a vision. Oh, the Lord told me.
They strengthen also the hands of the evildoers.
This is the problem. They also strengthen the hands of the evil doers, especially sisters. You yourselves, you know, some of you would have dreams. Elohim would come to you in a dream and say, my daughter, this matter of this, the way you are clothing yourself, please, it is not well. Cover your head. Make sure you are dressed decently. You will see dreams, and then you will come to your pastor because he is your advisor. He will tell him, Pastor, behold, this and this I have dreamed. Elohim told me that I have to wear decent clothes. What will your pastor say? Oh no, my daughter. Oh, I've also had a dream. And Elohim told me that some of my sisters in this church are being led astray by strange doctrine. And I wanted to say that that voice was the devil. Just make sure you dress yourself well. Put some foundation, put some hair, put some lipstick, because when a man comes, he wants you to be in a certain way, you know. So present yourself good, you know. So they are strengthening the hands
of evildoers.
That
none does return from their wickedness.
Many of these so-called prophets, they know that a lot of the men that come to the church are sappy boys. But they will allow the sappy boy, they will allow the gangster and the criminal to remain in the church as long as he pays tithes. And then they will take that money the dead guy gives, and they will build the house of the Lord. So Elohim said, I've seen this thing. One, they lie in my name, and then two, they strengthen the hands of the evil doers.
That none that return from his wickedness.
You see, whilst a true prophet, his mission, it will always be to turn the hearts of the people back unto Elohim. Unto Elohim. So this, as we are continuing with the life of Jeremiah, are the things that the prophet went through. He had to warn people against the voice of the false prophets. He told them about the coming judgment. And also, when he began to speak, they called him the doomsday prophet because he was speaking against many nations, and particularly also against one nation, which we know to be Babylon. Jeremiah 51 from verse 5.
Jeremiah chapter 51 from verse 5.
It says,
For Israel had not been forsaken.
He says, no matter what may happen, Israel, and he's speaking about the real Israel, not the ones you see that are chilling now in that small portion of desert, which they call Israel, which is not even Israel. So he says, for Israel
has not been forsaken.
Has not been. There was this article even where a scholar said one ought not to confuse ancient Israel with modern day what did he use? With modern day, no, not even Israelis, with modern day I think, what did he say, Ashkenazi or Jews? No, he said one ought not to confuse ancient Israel with modern day Jews. A scholar himself said it. One ought not to confuse ancient Israel with modern day Jews because they are not the same. So Jeremiah is saying,
for Israel has not been forsaken.
For the real Israel has not been forsaken.
Nor Judah of his Elohim.
Nor had Yehudah been rejected of his Elohim.
Of Yahuwah Shabbaot.
Listen.
Though their land was filled with sin.
Which verse?
5.
Though their lands were filled with sin.
Against the Holy One of Israel.
As it is until today. Go ahead.
Flee out of the midst of Babylon.
He's saying, my people, you ought to run. No, conquer Babylon.
Flee.
We have conquered the nations.
Flee out of the midst of Babylon.
Amsterdam is ours.
Flee.
He's saying, flee
out of the midst of Babylon.
Out of the midst of
Babylon.
Go ahead.
And deliver every man his soul.
No, I will deliver you.
Deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity.
Go ahead.
For this is the time of Yah's vengeance.
Go ahead.
He will render unto her a recompense. Babylon has been a golden cup in Yah's hand.
That is why people have difficulties understanding prophecy, as we told you. So that is why if you read this, before he begins with the warning, he brings into mind Israel. He said, I have not forgotten Israel. And then he makes a jump to Babylon. If you understand who Israel is, you'll be able to link everything. So he says, Babylon has been a
golden cup in Yah's hand.
Yah's hand.
That made all the earth drunken.
Scholars will read it, will be like, oh, this was ancient Babylon. Fine. Remember the analogy that he used. Babylon is a golden cup
in Yah's hand.
Revelation 17 now.
Revelations chapter 17.
Thousands of years
later,
after Jeremiah already died.
After
Babylon was already superseded as a world power. Because in the time of Revelation, now it is the fourth beast, being Rome, who is in power. But listen at the prophecy. Revelation 17 verse 4.
From verse 4.
And the woman
was arrayed in purple and scarlet color,
and decked
with gold and precious stones and pearls,
having a golden
cup in her hand.
And Babylon is a golden cup in whose hand?
In the hand of Yah.
And now in Revelation, he said, and this woman had a golden cup
in her hand,
because it is the same spirit. Now give me from Revelation that 17 verse 1.
Revelation 17 verse 1.
It says,
and there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither
and see.
I will shew unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sits upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication.
In Revelation, in Jeremiah, we read that Babylon was a golden cup in Elohim's hand that had made drunk
The nations.
the nations.
And the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication.
The same speech is being used here because Babylon has never ceased. Babylon has never ceased. Now continue reading and now give me one of the sins of Babylon. Revelation 18, give me verse 11.
Revelation chapter 18 from verse 11.
Until 13, because of time, read it fast.
And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buys their merchandise anymore. The merchandise of gold and silver, and precious stones and of pearls, and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet, and all thyine wood, and all manner of vessels of ivory, and all manner of vessels of most precious wood, and of brass and iron and marble, and cinnamon and odors, this is verse 13, and ointment and frankincense, and wine and oil, and fine flour, wheat and beast, and sheep, and horses, and chariots, and slaves, and souls of men.
Listen, one of the sins of Babylon was that they would take slaves,
The merchandise of slaves and souls of men.
the merchandise of slaves and the souls of.
Men.
Give me Psalms 137.
Psalms chapter 137.
So because Revelation is a futuristic prophecy, it happened long after Jeremiah died. So it could not have been the same.
Babylon.
So now Psalms 137, give me from verse 1.
Psalms 137 verse 1. By the rivers of Babylon.
By the
Rivers of Babylon.
there
We sat down.
and there we,
Wept.
when we remembered.
Zion.
Go ahead.
We hanged our harps unto the willows in the midst thereof.
Uh-huh.
For there they that carried us away captive required of us a song.
For there they who carried us away captives.
Required of us a song.
Go ahead.
And they that wasted us required of us mirth, saying, Sing us one of the songs of Zion.
So that is why when you see our Jamaican brothers, because they were one of the first that understood this. In the year 60 already, the years 50, the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, he began speaking of this. He began speaking of this. The Rastas who we call to be madmen, not knowing that they wore and had the spirits of the prophets upon them. All of them would say, fire burn Babylon. You think that they got it from Jonko? They did not get it from Jonko. Jeremiah himself said that Babylon would be burned down. Isaiah said Babylon would be burned down. Jeremiah said Babylon would be burned down. Ezekiel, Daniel, all of them said then Babylon would be burned down. So when our Jamaican brothers say it, fire burn Babylon, you think they are mad. No, they are fulfilling prophecy because they are sitting at the Jamaican rivers and they are sitting as they are smoking ganja and they are playing their instruments and they are chanting down Babylon. It is a completion of Psalms 137. For by the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down and there we wept.
When we remembered Zion.
All of them Jamaicans, what do they say? They say we must go back to Ethiopia. Why do you think they say that? They are longing to return to their brethren. You sit there, high with Christian crack, and you don't understand what is happening. And you don't understand what is happening. So ask yourself, would you rather smoke ganja or would you smoke Christian crack?
Neither.
Ask yourself. Because both will get you high, man. But it will bring you no result. So the Bible said, be ye drunk of the Ruach. And the Ruach is the spirit of truth. And the spirit of truth will teach you as it was ordained from the prophets of old. Because no prophet who prophesied of his own. But holy men spake as they were moved by the Ruach.
That's right.
So, we have been telling you, modern day Babylon is what? Is Rome. The descendants of Rome are what? The European nations, amongst which also falls America and Russia, because they are all the same people. We have been telling you from ages until now. Do not think Netherlands is your heaven. America's not your heaven. Elohim has passed judgment upon all nations. But why do you think he saved Europe?
The West.
And don't think that First World War, Second World War, it was nothing. It was nothing. It was just Elohim. He was testing the waters. Look at how the Elohim has decimated Africa. The Middle East is in war. Europe is enjoying peace. But he says that the cup of Babylon is not yet full. But when his cup will be full, we are telling you, we have been telling you, all of you who have your hope in the Netherlands, in America, soon and very soon, and the bombs will be dropping. Babylon is doomed. Just like Jeremiah said it, we are telling you, Europe will be destroyed. America will be destroyed. These nuclear weapons they are building, don't think they are building it because they have nothing to do. They are building it because they know a war is coming. Elohim, he said, I will smell and I will smile at your inventions and I will turn it against yourself. So soon and very soon, and Babylon will be destroyed. And when Babylon is destroyed, brothers and sisters, where will you go? As it was in the beginning, so will it be in our day. 10 more minutes and we are done. After that, the prophet Jeremiah prophesied about the destruction of Babylon. Then some of his countrymen, they decided to flee. And now, how can we speak of the Hebrews and never mention Africa? As long as we are alive, we will always mention Africa. So, the book of Jeremiah, the exile of the Bantus into Egypt, and the sin of their idolatry. Jeremiah 44, begin from verse 1.
Jeremiah chapter 44 verse 1.
So, especially, before you understand this context, give me the same Jeremiah 25 from verse 1 until 10. Read it a bit fast.
Jeremiah 25 verse 1. The word that came to Jeremiah concerning all the people of Judah in the 4th year of Jehoiakim the son of Josiah, that was the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon, the which Jeremiah the prophet spake unto all the people of Judah and to all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, saying, from the 13th year of Josiah the son of Ammon king of Judah, even unto this day, that is the 23rd year, the word of Yah hath come unto me, and I have spoken unto you, rising early and speaking, but ye have not hearkened.
So he was warning them without stop, 10 years long. People, Judah will be destroyed. Judah will be destroyed. Stop your wickedness. They continued.
Verse 4.
And
Yah had sent unto you all his servants the prophets, rising early and sending them, but ye have not hearkened, nor inclined your ear to hear. That they said, turn ye again now every one from his evil way, and from the evil of your doings, and dwell in the land that Yah had given unto you and to your fathers forever and ever. And go not after gods to serve them and to worship them, and provoke me not to anger with the works of your hands, and I will do you no hurt. Yet ye have not hearkened unto me, said Yah, that ye might provoke me to anger with the works of your hands to your own hurt. Verse 8 now.
Yes.
Therefore thus saith Yah of hosts, because ye have not heard my words,
because you have not heard my words,
behold, I will send and take all the families of the north, said Yah, and Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon, my servant, and will bring them against this land, and against the inhabitants thereof, and against all these nations round about, and will utterly destroy them, and make them an astonishment, and an hissing, and a perpetual desolations. Verse 10. Moreover, I will take from them the voice of mirth, and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride, the sound of the millstones and the light of the candle. And this whole land shall be desolation and an astonishment, and these nations shall serve the king of Babylon 70 years.
So when he pronounced this judgment, because this was the crux of the message of Jeremiah, his most deadliest of all prophecies was, ye will go into captivity for 70 years. And many prophets refused his saying. But eventually, as Daniel came to confirm it, in Daniel, I think 9 or 7, he said, and I, Daniel, I understood by books the prophecy which was spoken of by Jeremiah the prophet.
That's right.
That they would go into captivity for 70 years. But what happened then was some Hebrews at that time and age, around 500 years before the birth of the Messiah, Or is it like 300? What then happened was some Hebrews hearkened to the words of Jeremiah, and they quietly went into Babylon. But lo and behold, there was a bunch and a group. Jeremiah 44. They said, no, man, we will not go to Babylon. Rather, we will make our escape in Africa. So Jeremiah 44 from verse 1.
The word that came to Jeremiah concerning all the Hebrews,
saying,
which dwelt,
and this is for you Bantus who want to know where, because 10 minutes will soon be done. We want to know where you guys, you people come from. Because all you hear in history is what? Yeah, independence. Oh, this is the independence of Congo. Oh, this is the independence of Ghana. Oh, this is the independence of Nigeria. It's as if our life began in 1960. How can a people so rich and colorful in tradition, how can our lives begin in 1960? And none of you questions that 19. Why do all of us all of a sudden come into being in 1960? Ask your father, hey, what were we doing before 1960? All of them will tell you, yeah, you know, we were pagans, we were serving trees, and what are you serving now? And what are you serving now? So this is your history. Jeremiah 44.
Verse 1.
Go ahead.
The word that came to Jeremiah concerning all the Hebrews which dwell in the land of Egypt.
Listen, the word of Elohim that came unto Yirmiyahu concerning all the Hebrews that lived in
the land of Egypt.
Now that word Hebrew alone is not a word in itself. Hebrew, you will still find them today, and they are still living in Egypt, because Egypt simply means the continent of Ham. Because Egypt in itself is not known as Egypt. It is known as Kem-et. And Kem-et simply means the descendants of Kem. And Kem is who the Bible calls Ham. So when it says all the Bantus living in Egypt, all of them living in the continent of Ham. So when you also hear the word Hebrew, up until today, if you listen to the phonetics, Hebrew, Igbo, Hebrew, the same thing. Igbo, Hebrew, the same thing. When you begin to understand and look at the whole of Africa, you will still see up until today the many Hebrew traditions of Africans. The tribe of Gad, the tribe of Dan. Then you have people in Africa who are known as the Gadangwe. Gadangwe. But they have taught you to despise everything that sounds African. You're like, oh, Gadangwe. So you are making fun of us. And I understand that you are making fun, not understanding that it was prophesied that the Hebrews would be ridiculed. It is prophecy. We will be rejected and despised. It is prophecy. It is prophecy. So he's saying, go ahead.
All the Hebrews which dwell in the land of Egypt, which dwell at Migdol and at Taphanes, and at Noph and in the country of Patros, saying, thus saith Yahuwah.
So if Egypt is a country, then what is the country of Patros? So you have to understand that they did not necessarily stay in Egypt in itself, but they spread all over Africa.
Towards the Sudan.
So they did not want to go to Babylon. So the Hebrews, some of them, a group, they began to migrate towards Egypt. As they began to migrate towards Egypt, guess what? That is why you will see the Gadangwes have this tradition and have this folklore that they came from where? From the east. The Igbos, the Yorubas, they will tell you that they came from where? From the east. The people of Cameroon, whose capital is known as what? Yaoundé. But you people, you make joke of Yaoundé because it's Africa, not knowing that it is without evidence or it is without doubt that our master sprang from the tribe of Yaoundé that you make fun of. But it is fine. You can make fun all you want, but Africa will always remain on top. So listen, that is why even in our tradition, we the Bakongos, we will tell you that we came from the Middle East through Katiopa, and then we settled in the regions that are now known as Congo. So the exodus of the Bantus from the Middle East up until the West, in the time of history, they will call it the Bantu migration. So if you want to know where do you come from, don't just listen to these people. Our history began in 1960. No, your history began even before the Messiah was born, because that is around the time that we began to make our exodus. Because when we came into the continent of Africa, we the Bantus, and we all know what the Bantus consist of, you will see that in the regions where we are now, another group of people used to live there. In Ghana and Nigeria, they are no longer there. But if you go to places like my place or my country in the Congo, you will still see the original inhabitants of the land, and they are known as the Pygmies. They are known as the Pygmies. The Pygmies are the original inhabitants of the Congo. It's not us. We came there and we passed by there. We came there and we passed by there. So here he's telling that, listen, you Negroes, they decided to flee into Egypt. Elohim began to warn them. So jump to Jeremiah 44 verse 25 and listen. No, you have to read for like 2 minutes without stopping. So Jeremiah 44, you stopped at verse 1, read from 2 all the way to 17.
Jeremiah 44 from verse 2. Thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, Ye have seen all the evil that I have brought upon Jerusalem, and upon all the cities of Judah. And behold, this day they are a desolation, and no man dwells therein. Because of their wickedness which they have committed to provoke me to anger, in that they went to burn incense and to serve other gods whom they knew not, neither they, ye, nor your fathers.
Because of time, you can read it by yourself. Now jump to verse 16 and 17. Elohim is warning them. He's telling them, you who have decided to rebel and not to go to Babylon, but to flee to Egypt, no problem. Flee there, but be careful that you do not sin against me as you did in Israel, that you would commit abominations and serve idols. Read.
Verse 16. As for the word that thou hast spoken unto us.
And then when Jeremiah warned the people and told them not to do certain things in Egypt, then all of a sudden the people came together and they said, hey, Jeremiah, what's up?
As for the word that thou hast spoken unto us, in the name of Yah, we will not hearken unto thee.
You see? A stubborn, a wicked, and a rebellious people. They told Jeremiah, even though they saw that Jeremiah prophesied that Babylon would overtake Israel, they saw it with their own eyes and they fled. Nevertheless, they told Jeremiah, listen, everything you said, it sounds good, but we
will not hearken unto thee,
will not listen to you.
but we will certainly do whatsoever thing goes forth out of our own
Now
mouth.
listen, but we will do whatsoever thing that has come out of our own mouth.
To burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven.
And we will burn incense unto who?
The Queen of Heaven.
We will burn incense unto who?
The Queen of Heaven.
Every African religion and folklore has this tradition of the Queen of Heaven. And they said we will burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven,
and to pour out drink
and we
offerings
will
unto
pour
her.
out. You people that understand your culture, you know how we Africans have burnt offerings and how we blacks and the descendants of blacks have drink offerings. Even in the islands, they still have the drink offerings. Why do you think it is so crazy that even in the Americas, people who have lost sense of their tradition, in the ghettos, when a brother dies, what do they say? Pour out a little liquor. What do you think that is? And they say, for my dead
Homies.
you are fulfilling scripture. But because of the Christian crack, you don't realize. In nations like Ghana, when these priests, when they pour out their drink offerings, what do they usually say? First they say Onyame Onyankumpao, and what do they later say? Then they say this name. What is it? Asase Ya. Asase Ya. Meaning what? The mother goddess, the goddess of fertility, the Queen of Heaven. In every African tradition they have it. In Suriname, these people, what do they say? What do they say? What is it called? Mama what?
Mama Isa.
Mama Isa. You hear the Isa, Asasewa Isa, the same people doing the same madness. You people have been doing it. You people have been doing the madness as was prophesied in the Bible. So when they said to Elohim, we will not listen, Elohim began to pronounce the final judgment, and we are now bringing it to an end. Jeremiah 44 verse 25.
Starting from verse 25. Thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, saying, Ye and your wives has both spoken with your mouths, and fulfilled with your hand, saying, We will surely perform our vows that we have vowed, to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her. You will surely accomplish your vows, and surely perform your vows. Therefore hear ye the word of Yah, all Judah that dwell in the land of Egypt.
All Judah that dwell in the continent of Africa.
Behold,
I
have sworn by my great name,
I have sworn by my great name,
saith Yah, that my name shall no more be named in the mouth of any man of Judah in all the land of Egypt.
That is why you now see we are trying, but we are not there. So we in Congo, we say Njambe. Njambe. The N is silent. Njambe. In Ghana, they say Onyankumpa. So we are still trying to find his name, but he said, no, because of this wickedness, I'll remove my name from your midst. So we are trying, but it is not there. So he said, all ye Hebrews that are found in Africa, because you have done this, I'll remove mine. That is why up until today, your history is lost. White people know more about us than we know of ourselves. Go to any African museum, what will you find? You will find crack. But go to the Belgium, go to the UK, all of our artifacts, they have it. Why? Because he said, because of this wickedness you have done, my people, I will cause you to forget who you are. So now ask an African, what are you? You don't know. First you are called an African, then you are called a black, then you are called a monkey. But if you go by the real names, you will see that black is not something that you can be called, because black is just a color. We blacks, we did not identify ourselves as blacks, but we identified ourselves based on tribes and culture. So you will see that the African was first known as the Bantu. Then you will see some of us have our lineage to the Moors. Some of us have our lineage to all the other nations of old. But look at us now. No sense of life, no sense of purpose, no sense of history, and we are fulfilling prophecy.
Discontinued from the inheritance.
We are fulfilling prophecy. So that is also something that Jeremiah encountered. So do you see how the life of the prophet still resonates until this day? And just to confirm that the Bantus are the people of the book, to conclude, a prophecy with regards to end time, Isaiah 11. And before Isaiah 11, give me beyond, what's it called? Zephaniah.
Zephaniah chapter 3, starting from verse 10.
And he says,
From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia.
From beyond the rivers of what?
Ethiopia.
Every Bantu tradition, ask your elders, they will tell you, we come from the Middle East or we come from Ethiopia. All of them will tell you that. Now the prophet is saying, from beyond.
The rivers of Ethiopia.
From beyond.
The rivers of Ethiopia.
And now it is saying rivers. Rivers. Zambezi River. River. The river of Kenya, river, the river Tina, river, the Niger River, all of these rivers, the river Nile. He's saying from beyond the rivers
of Ethiopia,
there,
my suppliants, even the daughter of my dispersed shall bring my offering.
There they will bring my offering. Because as we went to the Bantu migration towards the west, soon and very soon, we will go back. To confirm this once again, because ask yourself, from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, are there any white people there? Are there any white people there? And don't say, the South Africans, you are a liar from hell. You are lying. From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, in every ancient map you look, you will see that it is called the Bantu land or the Negro land. And the same Negroes are the ones who, during the Spanish Inquisition and during the time of slavery, you will see when the white people came to enslave the blacks, what was the place that they focused all of their attention? Negro land. They did not take Somalis. They did not take Ethiopians. They would not take Arabs. They all went and came for the Bantus. Why do you think that is? It is to fulfill prophecy. Now Isaiah confirms this and then we are done.
Isaiah chapter 11.
Read from 1.
From verse 1.
And it says,
there shall come forth a rod
will come
out of the stem of Jesse,
from the stem of Jesse,
and a branch shall grow out of his roots.
Go ahead.
And the spirit of Yah shall rest upon him, the spirit of wisdom and understanding.
Give me an his. I don't have time for this.
Isaiah chapter 11, starting from verse 11.
Right.
And
Go
it
ahead.
shall come to pass in that day,
And it shall come to pass in that day,
that Yah shall set his hand again the second time,
Elohim will set his hand again the second time.
to recover the remnant of his people.
You see, he will recover the remnant.
Of his people.
So where will the remnant of Yah's people be in that time?
Which shall be left from Assyria.
They will be left where?
From Assyria.
From Assyria.
And from Egypt.
And from Egypt.
And from Pathros.
And from Patros.
And from Cush.
And from, what is Cush?
Ethiopia.
And from Cush.
And from Elam.
And from Elam.
And from Shinar.
And from Shinar.
And from Hamath.
And from Hamad.
And
So
from-
we all know Hamad has the name Ham. So where is it? Where is it?
From Ham.
Young. So you see, guys, because of time, we have to close. But this is the life of Jeremiah. It had to do with Africa. It had to do with the children of Israel who went into Africa. And up until today, you will see the majority of the Israelites are still in Africa. The people of Angola, people of Zimbabwe, some people of South Africa, the people of Cameroon, the people of Niger, the people of Nigeria, the people of Zambia, the people of Ghana, Ivory Coast, Benin, Togo, Bantus. Bantus. The people of the book who the world despises. They look at you like, hey, look at this stupid African. No problem. No problem at all. The world despises us, rejects us. Donald Trump said it's a shithole. He's right. He's right. It's no problem. He's right. But remove the black man from this world, and religion as you know it will die. Remove the black man from Islam. Islam loses its source and power. Remove the black man from Christianity. Which European do you know that still believes? How many do you know? Remove the black man from Christianity. Christianity is dead. It's dead. Remove the brown man from Buddhism. It is dead. Why do you think that everything that has to do with spirituality, we are at the base and we are hardcore? It is embedded in the system. It's in the system. So dear people, that was the exposition on the life of Jeremiah. So we will conclude with what he said. Jeremiah 6.
Jeremiah chapter 6.
You know what I want? 16.
From verse 16.
He
Thus
says,
saith Yah,
thus saith the Almighty.
stand ye in the ways.
Please, people, we are in a modern age and civilization. A brother once said, or I read it on the internet, in the time of information, ignorance is a choice. It means if you want to remain ignorant, I will blame no one but you. Instead of wasting all your time binge watching Netflix, why don't you binge watch history? When was the first time you just sat at home and said, just for fun, let me go to just Wikipedia alone, type in your nation where you are from and read it from the beginning until the end? How many Bantus have done that? Chances are that 98% of Negroes never did it. You live in Amsterdam, but up until today, you don't even know why is Amsterdam called Jodestad. So everything that you ought to know, you don't care. But if I ask you about Shito, You can explain how you can make shito. You put some onions, you put fish. You are sick. Crazy things you can properly explain. But the things that really concern you, you don't know. You don't know. So now the prophet is saying,
stand ye in the way.
please stand. Don't lie down. Don't sit. Don't sleep. Stand in the way
And see.
and open your eyes. Don't let someone tell you, hey, I saw. If someone says I saw, tell them good for you. But until I've seen it, I don't believe you. And see.
And ask for the old path.
Ask questions in life. Don't just sit there and take things for granted. If your father tells you something, ask him why. Could you explain? Ask your mother, Ma, waarom schreeuwt je? Ask. When you go to the church, ask. Don't just sit there as a zombie. You come to the church and... No. He says, stand, look, observe, and when you see something is wrong, ask.
Ask for the old path.
And ask not for the new path. Everything that is new, you ought to run. Especially with this new technology. Ask for the custom ways of old.
Where is the good way?
Because it is in the old path where is what?
The good way.
You see? Ask for the old.
Path.
Learn your history. Learn where you are from. Don't reject your customs. If you look at things very carefully, there is a lot of wisdom in our traditions of old. Because look at the trajectory of this world. There's no more wisdom to be found. Edom is mad. Edom is mad. You have to be 18 to vote, according to Edom. In America, you have to be 21 to legally drink. But in the same state, a child of 8 can undergo operations from a boy to a lady. Where's the wisdom in that? In New York, they have legalized the law that even after giving birth, you can abort the child. Meaning, you can give birth to the child and then decide to kill him. So there is no wisdom in the new ways. So he says, seek for the old path.
Where is the good way?
Where you will find meaning. Look into your lineage, your traditions. Everything that is good, hold on to that. And what is bad, reject.
And walk therein.
And walk therein.
And ye shall find rest for your souls.
And if you do that, you will find rest for your souls.
But they said,
but the conclusion is, unfortunately, many of us will say,
we will not walk therein.
no, man.
Not that.
Fire burn us a go, dude.
No, skip.
We'll be like, no, man. Fire burn Africa. No, man. That's the conclusion. So what Jeremiah went through, we will go through it. And just a few will listen. So as it was, so it is. Thank you very much. Shalom.
So this was the hour of restoration. Time is far spent. I hope you guys learned something. As you see, the calling of the prophets is not something easy or so glorious that people think, oh, a prophet. So please examine these things. If you miss something, you want to rewatch it, visit on our channels, YouTube, Facebook, SoundCloud. We have many messages out there for you if you want to learn about something else. So please, thank you guys. Follow us on social media, Instagram, where we have regular posts about what we do. So again, this was the hour of restoration. Thank you guys for being with us wheresoever you're listening at home. Be safe, and we hope to see you guys next week. This was the hour of restoration, restoring broken walls.
Hear the cry of the altar of Yahweh. Hear the cry of the altar of Yahweh. Nigeria, say,